So it's 9 o'clock and good morning to everyone. It's time to get started with this webinar on how to grow your global growth on international energy markets. We'll start with some few first ground rules. Given the international context of this meeting, we'll be speaking English. You will all be muted listening in, and your cameras will be off, but you can ask or write questions in the chat, in the meeting chat, and we will try to answer them if time permits, and otherwise we will follow up with them with you after the webinar. And we're also recording this session, so everything we say can and will be held against us. So then it's time to switch slide and get started. Welcome to this joint webinar where we want to give you a global perspective on trends in the energy sector, as well as information on the support that's available from Business Sweden and the Swedish Energy Agency for your international operations. My name is Robin Peterson and I work in the Smart Energy team at Business Sweden, and I'm based in Stockholm. I'm very happy to be joined by my colleagues around the world in this webinar, as well as by Mr. Paul Westin from the Swedish Energy Agency, and you'll be hearing from them a bit later. We're actually running two sessions today, so this morning we'll be focusing a bit more on APAC and Asia, and this afternoon we'll be highlighting the Americas region, and then we'll be joined by colleagues from the US. Next slide, please. In today's meeting, we'll start broadly with a global overview of the trends and developments in the energy sector globally. And this is based on a study that we finished earlier this year at Business Sweden. And the study was led by Anna Liberg, who's Trade Commissioner to Germany and Industry Practice Lead for Energy for the EMEA region. And we did this study was basically to orient us a bit on how we should work the coming years, where we should focus. She will be followed by Paul Westin, who will present the Swedish Energy Agency's role and support for the Swedish companies on international markets. And after that, we'll get a very specific and present some selected programs that companies can engage in to win business on international markets. And I dare say there's something for everyone today. There's something for large companies looking at mega deals of a billion SEK, to small companies maybe out on their first venture in a new market. And there are opportunities in generation, transmission, storage, etc. And we'll be presenting quite a wide spectrum of business support. Although we don't only have time to present a few of the projects and highlight a few things of what we have to offer. We hope this will trigger your interest. Next slide, please. So briefly about Business Sweden first. We work in 7 different ecosystems, and today we're representing the smart energy ecosystem. And our purpose are basically the points that you see at the bottom of the slide. And our focus here today are on the first 3 points, why we're doing this. We want to support Swedish SMEs in growing in and beyond Europe. We want to connect innovative startups and scale-ups to global innovation hotspots. And we want to support leading companies to win the largest international deals there are out there. And within the energy sector, there are a lot. Next slide, please. And we have a truly global team working within smart energy. You will hear from some of our colleagues from on the markets today. But here I think there are 6 key people for you to get in touch with if you are interested in more information and you want to engage with us. The 3 on the right, they are based in Sweden, including myself, but we work globally, so we coordinate the global work, while Anna and Pavan and Mats head up our work in the energy sector for EMEA, APAC and Americas, respectively. So next slide. We have a lot going on within the energy sector, which I think is illustrated here. And in addition to these projects, there are many starting up as well. And there's some here that we can't show because of the confidentiality agreements and so on. But we will later today, we will go more into detail into some of these initiatives to explain a bit the purpose and the business opportunities behind and how you as a company can engage and take advantage of these initiatives. And many of these we do together with the Swedish Energy Agency, and some of them are done with other partners as well. So there are a lot of opportunities for you companies out there. Next slide, please. So these are basically the projects that we'll highlight later today. We will go a bit deeper into, and these are to illustrate how our programs work and what they can actually do for you. So we have some different programs from different parts of the world and in different sectors and targeted to different types of companies. But now I think we should take a step back and take a look at the bigger picture and some insights on the energy sector globally. And so with that, I hand over to my colleague Anna Liberg. The scene is yours.
Thank you, Robin. Let's move on. Speaking here to the core of the Swedish energy community, you are of course on top of that 70% of the greenhouse gas footprint comes from the energy sector, including industry, transport and buildings. But also that electrification will be a major driver towards net zero, and that renewables are likely to account for 80% of the global growth of electricity demand by 2030. We will, however, need low carbon hydrogen and synthetic biofuels to bridge clean electricity to heavy industry and long haul transport. And fossils will move from 70% of global energy demand to zero, and that the oil peak will need to come before 2030, but that this demand depends now on the economy restart and the green measures that we are doing. With energy as a prioritized Swedish ecosystem, we set off to take a look at the key trends and transformations that will impact the energy landscape in the decade to come. Let us have a look on a few of these trends and how they will impact your global business. And let's start with digitalization. Digitalization is of course required to reach a faster, cleaner energy transition. However, in many places globally, we see that challenges from challenged financials of utilities and grid operators has led to underinvestments in the electricity network. Good news is that investments are bound to increase with focus on the digital side. Electrification will increase demand on the grid, forcing digitalization to meet integration of renewable and storage. EVs create electrical downstream challenges, but also allows for storage possibilities and grid flexibility. Big data and AI powered analytics reduce grid cost while improving planning and asset utilization. However, digitalization, automation, and devices creates increased cybersecurity concerns. Business implications that we see is that AI and cybersecurity solutions will be in demand in every part of the system. The digital business opportunity will be driven by changes in regulations and especially now by the recovery investments that we see. Let us have a look on the side of policy. National determined contributions, or the NDCs, needs to be progressed into actionable clean energy strategies in line to reach the Paris 2030 targets, as we saw, for example, in the EU just before Christmas. Still, additional global investments of $1 trillion is needed in the years now, 21 to 23, if we want to put 2019 as a peak of global CO2 emissions. At the same time, the strategic policy and governmental investments is a crucial base for regional competitiveness. Just take a look at China's and EU's track record on influencing supply and demand to pave the way for leadership in renewables and bridge technology. One way to go about is to create test bed environment for virgin technology and to encourage deployment into infrastructure. Governments also are in charge of regulations which needs to be adapted to the new energy landscape. One example is to define high sustainable demands on new energy technologies as batteries. Implications then. Leading actors should take an active role in policy and standardization discussion. We do advise to invest long-term point of view on market outlook based on the policy landscape. And of course, you now need to grasp the opportunities from different COVID recovery packages. Let us have a look on the competitive ecosystem. The critical resources globally are shifting. Global oil supply will limit its influence on global markets as oil demand will peak. Non-ferrous metals and rare earths are crucial for renewables and batteries, but they are not limited by the actual supply, but by sustainable mining investments. Further, soft key assets on par with natural resources will be policy, know-how, and industrial systems. We will see all kinds of integration in the system. Global fossil actors will move speedily towards renewable footprint. Alliances will emerge for supply of rare earths. Utilities will expand geographically, and generation will blur into transmission and distribution markets. Consolidations to reach scale effects for technology leadership we will see. One example is the wind area. Digitalization will drive entrance from other ecosystems such as telecom and digitech. Industry and automotive looks upstreams for partnership for battery and hydrogen technology. Well-invested innovators and startups will increasingly challenge the incumbents. Especially we will see that in markets with new user cases such as India and Africa that will foster new innovators. Regionalization will impact global suppliers of core technology to the power industry, and geopolitics will continue to influence larger energy links. We hence suggest to invest in a position as a sustainability leader in core fields and be prepared for major turnarounds in the ecosystem positions. If we then take a look on the side of the conscious consumer, the public have for decades influenced key decisions on energy. Now they will do so even more through their wallets. Global consumer community will move from consuming energy to generating and providing energy-enabled services. It is key to only subsidize flexible investments that have net positive climate impact through the whole energy value chain. Clean energy will be the next premium consumer value. Green electricity will be valued as a core part of any product and service. Consumers will choose when and what electricity to consume according to dynamic pricing. Hence, we advise to develop and provide services to enable the consumer turns flexible, articulate the clean energy content of your product and service for premium position and price. Adapt the pricing model to let the consumer pay as go, especially in liquidity low markets. Then last, servitization. If we change. Servitization will boost clean energy. Global energy efficiency measures can reduce greenhouse gases emissions up to 40% globally. The drive for energy saving will grow energy efficiency services along the entire energy system. Market platforms will diversify offers in terms of green emissions for free electricity. The sharing economy hits the energy market, and localized business models offering energy-enabled services such as charged and run or uptime will emerge rather than that you buy kilowatt hours. Services will emerge around microgeneration, grids, and storage. This implies that the energy system, digitalization, and efficiency service markets grows significantly. Pricing models based on energy saved will increase margins. Electricity trading market platforms will diversify. And let's turn. So with this positive outlook from the new business landscape in mind, I am now keen to hear from following speakers how we can address these implications on business through collaboration in our global promotion program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anna, for that excellent presentation. I can just only encourage the audience to take a look at the new business landscape report by Business Sweden in full. It's an excellent report. And thank you, Robin, and others at Business Sweden for having me today. It's always a pleasure to work together with you. Next, please. So the Swedish Energy Agency, our mission is that we are leading society's transition to a sustainable energy system. And that means, of course, a lot of collaboration because we are not doing it ourselves. We are mainly facilitating and working together with other organizations. And our vision is clean and affordable energy for all. So it's totally in line with the sustainability development goals. Next, please. So just a brief words about the Swedish Energy Agency. We are the national energy authority for energy policy issues, and some of our main tasks that are relevant for this webinar is that we have the R&D funding allotment, and it's about 1.2 billion Swedish kronor per year, which is doubled by the co-financing by industry. And we work along the whole chain from basic research onto commercialization and internationalization. We also have the responsibility for Sweden's international climate investments, which is also something where we work to include, for example, the Article 6 of the Paris Agreement, where we can work together with business and industry. Next, please. So in just a reminder of the Swedish energy policy targets, we have quite ambitious targets, and Sweden continuously ranks high in achieving these targets, but we're still not there, and especially the 50% more efficient use of energy in Sweden seems a little bit difficult to reach at the moment. But the other ones, I think we will be we are on track. Next, please. And considering the new business landscape report and also the activities post-pandemic, I just wanted to highlight a few of the things that the government has put forward in the last budget. In total, it's about 2 billion euros of environment, energy and climate programs, and one of the most important one where the Energy Agency is also working is the Industry Step program, Industriklivet, which has been expanded to for the coming years. And there is also a new big allotment for state green credit guarantees for investments as well, which might be interesting to know. Next, please. And we also continue to have the confidence of the government, and they have given the Swedish Energy Agency some new and interesting tasks, regeringsuppdrag, especially the battery task that we do together with the Swedish Environmental Protection Agency and the Geological Survey of Sweden. Also in line with what Fossil Free Sweden has reported already. So the focus is really to, as Anna mentioned, to find circularity in the value chain for batteries with scarce materials. And we delivered an intermediate report to the government this last month, which you can find on our webpage. We also recently got a new task of developing a hydrogen strategy to be delivered already this summer. And I think I heard my Director General also mention that we really wish to also take a Nordic approach to this work. So there will be also some suggestions from the Swedish Energy Agency to work with the Nordic Council of Ministers on this. We also have the task of developing a national center for carbon capture and storage and bio-based carbon capture and storage, so we can have negative emissions through that type of action. And since some years back, we also work together with Business Sweden and other authorities on the Smart City Sweden platform. Next, please. So as I mentioned, we really do work in the whole chain of fundamental research until internationalization. We focus our internationalization activities actually on SMEs in accordance with the government's export strategy, because these companies are the ones that need to grow internationally and need more help. And we work together with Business Sweden in many of our programs. And we have a few more prioritized markets like India, Indonesia, Germany, China, United Kingdom, and the USA. We also work for access to private equity for startup companies, especially towards the US and East Asia. There are also other programs like prototypes, pilots, and demonstrations, and verifications of technologies with customers that could be interesting for the industry to also apply for international projects, actually. They are mostly, we receive applications for national projects, but some companies are born global, so you will be most welcome to also find our calls for proposals for international projects in those stages of development. Next, please. Yes, Robin already showed a map of Business Sweden's international activities, and this is the map for the Swedish Energy Agency, where you can see our priority markets. As I already mentioned, and we will get more into details by following speakers on, for example, the Sustainable Heating and Cooling by Sweden program. Next, please. So, if you wish to take part in our activities, I'm afraid to say that our web page is mostly in Swedish, but you will find it under Research and Innovation, and to the drop-down menu, you will find an entry point that is called I want to launch my company internationally. And then, next, please. You can send a notification of interest to us, and we will get back to you very soon with suggestions for which programs you might be relevant for. And next, please. And we have different also platforms and web pages where you can read more about our offerings. Sustainable Heating and Cooling by Sweden, we will hear more about. We also work together with the German-Swedish Chamber of Commerce on the Swedish-German Cleantech platform, where we also take part in Hannover Messe, for example. We have the Innovations Accelerator in India. We have the Business Accelerator in Indonesia. We are also having the Cleantech Hubs program, which is now being remodeled a little bit, and that is not market specific. So if you're interested in other markets, please keep an eye open for call for proposals for the new Cleantech Hubs. I also always want to highlight Smart City Sweden, which is a visitors platform now gone digital due to the pandemic, but it also has some actually international projects where we, together with the other actors, support for pre-feasibility studies. And we also have platforms for internationalization, especially towards bioenergy and sustainable healthcare. Next, please. Yes, I think that was it for me for now. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Paul. That's an impressive array of amount of services you offer as well, and support for Swedish companies abroad, and a lot of things we're doing together. And there's a lot of support in different stages of the internationalization process. It's very, very good support for Swedish companies. And now we will get even more specific and highlight some certain programs which we would like to illustrate the way we're working and how we can support companies abroad. And we'll start by giving the word to my colleague Pavan, who's joining us from India. Good afternoon.
Thank you. Yeah, good afternoon. So I'm really excited with the opportunity in Korea, South Korea. The South Korean government has set up an ambitious plan to become a green economy focused on green hydrogen by 2050, and the government has been continuously looking for collaborations with innovative companies and in countries like Sweden to enhance the technical and commercial viability of green hydrogen. This is in line with their plan to bring down the cost to make it more technically and commercially viable to use green hydrogen across different applications, starting with the fleets, having the fleets completely running on green hydrogen. Also to look into the stationary power side. The overall focus is on to support a transition from 99% fossil-based hydrogen to a green hydrogen economy. And in this whole process, they have been looking forward to collaborate with countries like Sweden, who already have the same agenda and same motive to do further work in green hydrogen. So our wonderful team in Korea is right now working on fine-tuning the opportunities, finding out the concrete business opportunities. Once the opportunities are finalized, they will be more than happy to match the Swedish hydrogen companies with those opportunities and introduce the Swedish offerings through various workshops and seminars with different stakeholders. The team has an excellent network with local stakeholders, and we have a very experienced and the diligent team in South Korea who will be more than happy to support all the Swedish companies in organizing a dedicated webinar, which is somewhere around in Q2, which will be followed by joint hydrogen delegation from Sweden to the Hydrogen Forum, which is one of the world-renowned hydrogen expos, H2 World. The last year the expo was organized in November, but hopefully this year the expo will be organized in Q3. The team will keep you updated. So in case any company is interested in exploring one of the most dynamic markets from green hydrogen perspective, please feel free to contact us to take you to share. We'll be happy to share further details on this opportunity with you. Next slide, please. Good. From Korea, then I would love to take you to Australia, wherein the Australian government has set up a very strong ambition to reduce the CO2 emissions per capita, and the government has launched a technology investment roadmap to ensure accelerated adoption of renewable energy infrastructure projects. The government has launched a big, under this roadmap, the government has launched various projects with a possible investment of around 350 billion Swedish crowns, starting with the Star of the South project, which is the Australia's first offshore wind park, wherein the government is trying to build up 2 gigawatts of offshore wind capacity using around 400 wind turbines, and also the allied transmission and distribution network. And this will be there will be also be projects around renewable energy zones in New South Wales and Queensland, where the government is looking forward to deploy a combination of solar and wind power to develop around 11 gigawatts of capacity along with the light transmission distribution network. There's also talk about the project about Australia ASEAN Power Link, one of the most ambitious and wonderful projects that the government is looking for, wherein the government has announced its plan to set up around 10 gigawatts of solar and wind capacity, along with the 30 gigawatt hours of solar battery bank. This excess power will be transmitted through underwater 3,800 kilometers long HVDC link from Australia to ASEAN, and they have been looking for various kind of proven technology and partnerships, and are very keen to work with the Swedish counterparts. So our team is currently working with local stakeholders to fine-tune the business opportunities, to break it down what are the kind of feasible opportunities for our companies. These three projects are different levels of project cycle. So the team is really working towards nailing down the exact opportunities. Once that is done, we will be more than happy to introduce the opportunities to various companies, and from that help the companies in accessing these opportunities by providing high-level support in terms of interactions, webinars, and bilateral meetings. So the team has planned a webinar in Q2 with an overview of Australian sector, and by that time we are pretty much sure that we'll be able to fine-tune the opportunities. It will be followed by a joint webinar with the Australian players to meet the key decision makers to understand the requirements of our company, as well as matchmaking sessions. And if situation permits, they'll be more than happy to take up an official delegation from Sweden to Australia in the second half of 2021. So we really would like to invite all the Swedish companies to join us for these initiatives and other initiatives will be highlighted by my colleagues. With this, now I'll hand over to my colleague Mary in Paris to talk about the sustainable heating and cooling opportunities. Mary, over to you.
Thank you, Pavan, and bienvenue à Paris. So I will briefly take you to some opportunities within sustainable heating and cooling in France, but also in the UK and in the Netherlands. As you all know, the governments around Europe invest heavily in the ecological transition and recovery also, and district heating using renewable sources is considered as one solution for decreasing the CO2 emissions. So we have mapped up several solutions, several opportunities where municipalities are investigating the district heating and cooling investments and expansions in these countries. And there are some important heat networks projects planned. For example, we have the heat roundabout, the large-scale infrastructure project that will be, it's ongoing in South Holland with the port of Rotterdam as a major source of heat. We have in London all the boroughs that are extension or plan for extension or modernizing existing networks. This is the same in Lille in the north of France. They will both extend and modernize, and they are really the municipalities and operators we are in contact with in these markets. They are interested to collaboration with Sweden and Swedish companies. So you have several opportunities. We have an ongoing program, as Paul mentioned here, Sustainable Heating and Cooling by Sweden, running in UK, the UK and France in some years. We have 45 member companies, and you're welcome to contact us to join this program to get insights on market developments, business opportunities through our joint promotion activities. You can get access to market stakeholders as operators, municipalities, authorities. And also you will have visibility through our communication channels. And in the Netherlands, we have this high potential opportunity project ongoing. So you can reach out to our colleague Eva Ferrier in The Hague to know more about this. And just to mention the program with sustainable heating and cooling, a similar program is also running in China, and we collaborate with an association in Heat and Cooling and other partners. And the overall objective is really to strengthen the position of the Swedish technologies and services within this area, and also to facilitate knowledge sharing and collaboration with local stakeholders to develop these clean solutions together, both in Europe and, as I mentioned, also in China. So we have several activities planned already. Now it says webinars, digital workshops. We hope in the autumn that we could meet physically again. So we plan also to take delegations from these countries to Sweden, and also to organize conferences in place in Sweden also in this autumn. So welcome to contact us, and you have also the website shcbysweden.se to look more into. So I will hand over to my colleague we go to Africa, to Rajab in Kenya.
Great. Thank you very much, Marie, for that particular kind of presentation. I'm going to take you through the opportunity that currently lies in Uganda. So Uganda is a country that is actually on a rapid and ambitious plans to increase both access of electricity and also the supply of the same electricity. And just to give you a brief overview, currently the electrification rates in Uganda, it's at around 26.7%, weighted rural urban electrification rates, meaning the number of houses that are connected to the national grid. So the country is actually looking into increasing access to electricity and having about 1 million households connected to the electricity grid or the national grid. So we've been having quite a number of delegations to and fro Uganda to Sweden and over the last 3 years. And in 2019, June, we signed an MOU with the government of Uganda to help them or to collaborate and work with them to ensure that they are able to meet these ambitious plans and targets that they have on the electricity part. And then this particular kind of MOU, we were able to identify various prioritized projects for the Uganda counterparts, those that they believe were of interest to them on the energy sector. And we came up with quite a very elaborate financing solution using the SEK, EKN umbrella and SWET fund, of course, for the pre-feasibility studies that we can help them in various particular kinds of projects. And these opportunities, since they currently lie all the way on the supply chain when it comes to the generation part, the transmission part, and the distribution part, we were able to identify projects in strengthening of the transmission lines. We were able to also identify projects in the floating solar park, that we call it, and also the distribution network enhancement and monitoring and management platforms, which is basically digitalization and integration of the national grid so that you can have one single source of truth. So we've been currently on having engagements around the financing part. We are actually at the last part phase of the same, and we're leveraging on the MOU and internally prioritizing, of course, working with top senior members in the office of the president. And we're actually also encouraging smaller Swedish companies to take advantage of the MOU, because we're talking of an opportunity of around 100 million USD, which is actually ring-fenced for Swedish companies. And of course, we are continuously engaging with the Ministry of Energy and other project stakeholders so that we can make sure that we can be able to deliver this in good time. Just to mention that we've also partnered with NEV, which is the International Council of Swedish Industry, and also Life Academy, so that we can be able to offer capacity building. And we want to ensure sustainability and continuity of the same project once the Swedish companies pull out of these specific projects. Maybe should we move to the next project? Move to the next slide. Good. Going down to Mozambique. Currently, Mozambique is actually, of course, also on a very ambitious plan when it comes to increasing access of electricity to the country. Again, it's also another country whereby we see a weighted electrification rate of around 29%. So we still have access issues. And when we have access issues, then we also have to work with the supply part of it so that we can make sure that the demand and supply balances. So we've been having high value installations at HCB, which is actually the private player or private energy utility in the country, offering hydroelectric solutions to Mozambique and also to the other South African Development Committee countries, SADC, and EDM, which is now the government utility in offering electricity, both generation, transmission, and distribution. So they're actually having quite a large plan to spend about 9 billion USD in investments throughout the value chain. And this actually has brought a lot of interest on our side. So SIDA has a long history in Mozambique supporting the energy sector. SWET Fund have funded both the National Utility Control Center and feasibility studies in hydro and power quality. We've been having quite a lot of discussions with the same and roundtable discussions with all the national utilities and, of course, the private utility that I mentioned before, public during the 2020 period. And we see that we have quite an addressable business opportunity for Swedish companies, around 200 million USD in opportunity. When you look at the generation side, they're looking at increasing generation in terms of using biomass, using solar, using mini hydro, and they're looking for Swedish companies that actually have competence in the same. They're also looking at the transmission side, where they want to upgrade their current transmission line, and they also want to come up with a new transmission line. So we have quite a lot of opportunities there for companies which can offer this kind of solution in a high voltage direct current transmission line. And then we also have the macro and off-grid solutions, whereby they're looking at increasing connectivity at around 100,000 connections, new connections per annum. And how we're planning to approach this is to have 1 or 3 business cases, which we can use as opportunities that we can use to leverage that as best case scenarios, whereby we can have Swedish companies with competence and then get them on board to be able to offer this particular kind of solution. We also want to use a similar approach as the Ugandan one, whereby we are going to sign an MOU with the government, and of course, with this MOU, we can always use this as a stepping stone or as a diving board, so that we can be able to offer solutions using the same. And maybe at that point, we're trying to engage increasing visibility through our field and boardroom engagement pilots. We are looking at these projects into 3 particular kinds of dynamics. Projects that maybe have not started, then we're going to be proposing pilot or proof of concept kind of ideas. And then those that are actually on the tender stage, then we're going to be offering trainings maybe on the total cost of ownership, trainings maybe on transparency, and so on and so forth. And then for our projects that are on the early stages, we're looking at maybe coming up with feasibility studies, pre-feasibility studies, SIA studies, RAP studies, things that we can be able to finance from our end. And then, of course, this is what is going to help us build and leverage on the same. So we're actually on the initial phases of the same project, and we would want to encourage more and more Swedish companies to come on board and invest in Mozambique. So that would be me on the side, and maybe I would want to welcome Robin to take us through the next part of the presentation. Thank you.
Asante sana, Rajab. Opportunity mingi. I lived 4 years in Kenya, so my Swahili is very, very good. Thank you very much. I think that highlighted very well how efficient we can be when we work together as Team Sweden, and we can bring in our partners, EKN, SEK, and Swedfund and such, to be able to target these opportunities and offer packages and financing as well. Well, we talked a bit now about a lot about mega deals, and I would like to highlight a bit that Business Sweden also has a whole range of programs aimed at supporting Swedish SMEs to enter new markets, ranging from a digital tool we call Going Global, or Go Global, which we will actually launch tomorrow, which is basically a guide you can have in your pocket in your phone, to market selection support, to hands-on coaching as well. But what I would like to highlight here today is our Catalyst program, which is focused on energy, or part of it is focused on energy. So this is a program that is aimed at the top 10% of Swedish innovative companies. So it'll be 3 energy-related or energy-relevant companies that are selected this year. This is aimed at companies that have maximum 249 employees and the 50 million euro annual turnover. And the selected companies, they get a 3 to 6 months go-to-market project, which is a tailor-made project on a specific market, selected by the company, where you want to be, where you want to go, or where you want to accelerate your work. The focus of the project is commercialization, so it's maximum 30% will be focused on market selection or market analysis. It'll be much more, the bulk of the work is supposed to be operational and commercial focused. And this program, apart from the go-to-market project, also gives the companies access to world-class competence and a quite unique network within the energy sector and within investors, because the selection process involves a pitch to a board of industry specialists and industry-specific investors who know your sector and are well connected, and they then turn into a valuable network for the companies that's selected. And we have been doing this program for many years, and it's been very valuable and very appreciated by the companies who are selected. So the last date to apply for companies who are in the energy field is August 25th, and then the pitching and selection will be at the end of September, the 25th. That's when 4 to 6 selected companies will be pitching towards the committee, and out of those, 2 or 3 will be selected to be part of the Catalyst program, and then to have their project delivered after that. So if you're interested in this, you can feel free to register directly on the web site there, or you can contact me by mail as well. And there's a fee for participating in this. For the company goes in with 30,000 crowns, and the go-to-market project is valued at about 175, and then have all the additional benefits of the network and support that the board engaging and supporting you in your work. So next slide. Almost on time here. To sum up, we've heard about the large global trends shaping our industry that Anna talked about. We've heard what this means for Sweden and for Swedish companies. We also have heard from Paul on how the Swedish Energy Agency can support and what their role is, and what a broad range of tools they have to work with and support Swedish companies who want to do business abroad. We've also heard from our colleagues on the field about our projects and how we, with a Team Sweden approach with EKN, SEK, and Swedfund and NIR, can support in accessing and these business opportunities, which are quite huge in different parts of the world and in different sectors. I hope you've all found this relevant and interesting, and I would like to thank all of you for participating, and I would like to urge you to contact us if you want to know more about Business Sweden and about the Swedish Energy Agency's initiatives and programs. This afternoon, some of you I know will be coming back to listen a bit more in on the Americas. We have colleagues joining from the US. But until then, and for everybody else, I would like to thank you and wish you all a good day. Thank you very much.